Welcome back to another episode of Value Bites. Today, I am very excited to have Rick Krebs joining us. Rick, you've had a pretty incredible career in M&A. You founded a business sales group. You were nominated as the Exit Planning Institute's Member of the Year. So tell me a little bit about your journey, how you got into this mergers and acquisitions world, and what led you to really want to help owners with this idea of selling by design rather than by default.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me today, Heather. So, how I got into it is I started as a bean counter, CPA, counting other people's money, got tired of that, started my own company, and I actually sold my company without any help. I didn't enlisted a business broker or an M&A person. I didn't know that we were out there. And so I didn't have any help and I got clobbered. So I
I was
learned
going
how
to
to
say, I bet that didn't go so great.
it didn't. No, it didn't. It was a disaster. And so I learned how not to sell a business by selling my business the wrong way the first time. And so I think you learn more from your mistakes than you do your successes. And so I took those lessons and I apply them in my practice nearly every day now in helping other people sell their business and not just sell it, but design that sale. Let's plan for it. Let's make it better. We have one chance to get it right. Let's make it right and let's take the time to do it and maximize that selling price for our sellers.
That's awesome. And I know from your experience of doing this yourself and working with so many business owners that it's more than just about getting the right price, right, for your business. There's so much
Mhm.
more that goes into it. We focus really heavily on vision and making a clear vision for our business owners and helping them achieve that. And so, in your experience, how does it play in for an owner to have their personal vision very clear? How does that impact the success of a sale? And why is it important for them to really solidify what they want in life from the sale of their business before engaging with someone like you?
So what you're talking about is one of the legs of the, we call it the three-legged stool. There's the business, there's your personal life, and there's your personal finances. But having a clear vision of what you want makes the decision much easier when you go to sell. You're not wandering around in the fog. You're not kind of in the dark without a flashlight. You know what you want, you know what your goals are. And so when you see that and that opportunity comes your way, you're able to jump through that window of opportunity before it closes. And so business owners that have a clear vision of where they're going to be personally and what they want for a selling price and what that's going to look like, how it's going to impact their value will make these decisions so much easier. When their ship comes in and they hit that lottery and they've got the ticket, they'll realize, hey, this is what I'm looking for, right? Helps them with that recognition part.
Yeah, and I'm sure that goes into your process of helping owners sell by design. So tell me more about what that process looks like, and what you mean by selling by design.
So what I mean by selling by design is people ask me all the time. They're like, Rick, when do I start planning for my exit? And I'm like, the day you open the doors, you start planning for your exit, right? I get phone calls from people that want to sell them. I call them OPTs, old people that are tired. They're just done. They want to sell. And we run those processes. And I've been doing this for nearly 15 years now. We've been selling those companies. But what I found, and the reason I wrote my book, Sell Your Business by Design, Not by Default, the reason I'm involved with exit planning is we found that if we could start earlier, say a year, 2 years, 3, 5 years ahead, start planning for that exit, start getting this business where it needs to be, de-risking operationally, financially, legally, start changing your thinking. So as business owners, the day-to-day MO is just, let's pay bills, let's take care of customers, let's hire or fire employees. And that's okay, that works. But your focus is on income generation. And what I like to do is to change that focus, not just from income generation to value creation. How do we build this asset and maximize the value of this asset for a future sale? Because they're different, right? And it requires a different, you look through a different scope or through different binoculars or glasses than you would when you're just running the day to day. So the sooner I can get business owners looking at these, we call them key value metrics, things which are going to increase the value of their business, exponentially, not just incrementally. I'm talking about an exponential increase in the value of their business. They start pulling these levers, they start focusing on the ultimate future value of their business versus just the day to day. So it does require this mindset change. It does require something new that most business owners aren't familiar with, but it can dramatically change that selling price and the way it's structured. So we got one chance to get it right. Let's make it right. Let's plan for it and do what we need to do to help them.
Yeah. So what are some things that you do with your clients to help them maximize that value? You mentioned you can pull some levers, have some areas to
Mm-hmm.
focus in on. If there was, just one or two things that people could take away from this, what should they be looking at and working on to really maximize that value of their business?
So the first thing I would do is I would get a business valuation. I would get a formal business valuation of your business right now today. I mean, there's lots of different resources. I've got a company, we do them for $800. It's just dirt cheap to get a valuation. And because you don't know what you don't know, right? But when you have that, then you know where you're at. And then you can look at it and say, okay, well, what impacted this value? Did it come in higher? Did it come in lower? How far away are we? Look at something called the wealth gap, which is how the difference between where you're at now compare you where you need to be to retire. Some people call that the freedom score or the freedom number, or the wealth gap. But how big is that gap? Is there a gap? If you're one of I call them the OPTs again, right? The old people that are tired, if they're looking to sell their business and they've got a huge wealth gap, they've got an issue.
Yeah.
I'm going to share a story. There was a brother and sister running this business, and was a and they were in their late 60s, and I met with them. We did their valuation, and they were tired. You could tell. It was a business that was a bakery, and bakers work hard. They started like 2 in the morning, right?
Hmm.
And their bodies were tired. I could see it, and their energy was low, and they were just ready to get out. And we looked at the value, and I said, okay, you need to talk to a financial planner. We need to look at your wealth gap. And they said, well, we don't need to do that. I'm like, well, great. You're covered. They're like, no, this isn't enough for us to retire. And it hurt my heart because I walked out of there just so down, because I'm like, these people don't have a retirement. This business asset was their retirement. They don't have a retirement now. The retirement's going to be working, and it was very sad to me. And so, in fact, the woman said, Rick, I wish we'd have met you 5 years ago. Like, yes, me too, because
Yeah.
they had done what they knew how to do, which is work hard. They focused on the business. They just, every time they had a hurdle, and they did a really good job of that, but they didn't focus on how do we maximize this value and where do we need to be for a future retirement goal. They hadn't thought about that. And so I vowed, I'm like, I'm going to get the word out. I don't care if I'm helping you sell or not, but you need to know these things. You need
Yeah.
to start planning early, looking at it early, and maximizing that value of your business for a future sale.
Yeah, that's so smart. And, sometimes it's not a decision to retire that brings
Mm-mm.
up the sale, right? So being ready early is just such great advice because you just never know what's going to happen in life.
No, you don't. And one thing I wanted to share, you ask about what do we do different when we launch a business for sale versus list it. So if we have time, we plan and we do exit planning to get them where they need to be.
Mhm.
But in the process, in the sales process itself, we run a hybrid process. I take the best of both worlds. There's three tiers in business brokering. There's a business broker that typically do transactions 2 million and under. M&A guys like me, we're in the middle. We do 2 million up to usually 30 million in revenue or enterprise value. And then bankers do the larger, and they do a really good job. We're just the meat in the sandwich. We're just right in the middle. And so in our processes, we take the best of both worlds. We'll take the best of the banker world, and sometimes we'll run a bid process. We have competitive bidding, and sometimes we run a process that's more like a broker process. But we get the confidential teaser in front of over 20,000 or 2,000 buyers in the first 48 hours. So that's what we do different. I think we do a pretty good job of that, just getting it out, not just listing it for sale, but launching it,
Mm.
getting it out to them, being proactive, and not just, putting it up on a website, but reaching out to people, letting them know it's here, and running successful processes.
Yeah, it's interesting what a little strategic outbound marketing can do, right?
Yep,
I,
absolutely.
I love that too. And I think that's such an important thing for owners to know that it's not just list it and hope that someone comes. They should be looking for someone who's really going to do the footwork and who's developed
Mhm.
the relationships and the lists and can get in front of those people that might be just the ideal fit for them. So I think that
Yep.
that's
And here's something.
looking
Oh,
at.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just finishing my compliment on your process.
Oh, thank you. So here's something that a lot of business owners don't know, and that is 50% of the businesses that go to market don't sell. 50%, that's huge,
Yeah.
right?
And I think
Oftentimes they
that's
don't.
probably a conservative percentage too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. I think so. Couple of reasons they don't sell is they're in business puberty. And what I mean by that is they're a little bit ugly. They got pimples and braces, right? They're teenagers and they go to market prematurely and the buyers find them cute, but they don't take them serious and they're pushing the price down. So if a business, and it can be a 30-year-old business that's still in business puberty, the financials may not be on an accrual basis. You might have operational things. You may not have things in the business that can be cleaned up and let that business mature and then take it to market.
Yeah.
So I tell them, I'm sorry, your baby's ugly. Just sometimes it is. You got to clean it up. You got to fix it up. And so I see a lot of businesses going to market prematurely. I see them going to market overpriced, Bath just way, way overpriced. And they just sit, unfortunately, and it wastes everyone's time.
Mm.
I want to share something with you. And that is, what would I tell me? I want to say, what would I tell me if I were me? Or if I were you,
Okay.
right? What would I want to know? And the first thing a lot of business owners don't know is that when you sell a business, you're going to have to sign a non-compete agreement. I don't care what they have on the news. If you're a business owner and you're selling, you're going to have to sign a non-compete. And that non-compete is typically from 2 to 5 years.
Mm.
Sometimes it's more, but they're going to want to make sure you don't compete against them. The second thing is they're going to want training. The first part of training is free. That's included in the price. That's usually 30 days, sometimes 60 days. Anything after that is usually paid for and negotiated. The third thing that you're going to want to do is in your LOI. We just started something called the LOI guys, where we review LOIs for free. We have an AI tool that reviews them because we're seeing a lot of kind of crappy LOIs come over. And if you don't handle a lot of issues in the LOI stage, your deal can blow up. It's a higher likelihood that it's going to blow up in the end. But one of the things that they need to tackle early on is an asset allocation. They're
Mhm.
going to fill out a form 8594 with the IRS, and they need to have the allocation of the asset figured out because we were doing one the other day, and I shifted I shifted their working capital from receivables to cash, and that changed their tax bill $160,000. So there's a lot of little nuances and things that you can do in the negotiation that doesn't impact the buyer, but will help the seller. So non-compete, asset allocation, training. The next thing is working capital. If your business is selling for over about $2 million, you're going to have working capital requirement, and you're going to want to understand that. Um, Also, most transactions have a seller note. You usually don't get paid 100% up front. You usually get paid 80 or 90. I'm working on one right now where they took 50% up front because of the way we needed to structure it. So don't plan on getting all of the money up front. Probably 95% of the deals I do have some element of a seller note or seller carry, typically paid over 2 years up to even 8 years. Banks are
Wow.
requiring a standby on that a little bit. So we don't like that, but that's usually part of it. If you have excess cash in your business, sweep that out because that working capital calculation is going to be part of it. And if you have this excess cash, a lot of owners are sitting on excess cash. They think it's a cushion. If you're an S Corp, you've already paid taxes on it, so it doesn't matter. But sweep that out so the buyers don't see it. If they see it, oftentimes they will get it. But anyway, that's a lot. But these are things that you need to know. Talk to a good M&A person. Talk to a good broker, and ask them about these things. I don't like to see people get kind of sideswiped with these things,
Yeah,
right?
there's enough that's going to come up in the process that's going to be scary and surprising. The more that you can get out on the table early on, the better, right?
Yep, exactly. And there's one other thing I want to share, and I call it Cinderella syndrome. Don't get it. So many of these business owners are running their business, and buyers are getting aggressive. So they're sending over offers. And I'm seeing that buyers are getting LOIs and they freak out. They just do the wrong things. So I use this analogy. So the sellers are like Cinderella at her first ball. and they're out there and they're in the dress and they look pretty. And what happens? Here comes a handsome prince charging over, right? Well, handsome prince is saying all the right things, doing all the right things, offering up some pretty good numbers, and Cinderella falls in love with the first guy that asks her to dance. Well, once in a while that'll work out, but for the most part, you don't want to fall in love with the first guy that asks you to dance. You want to, the best thing to do at your first ball is to go dance with somebody else. Dance with a lot of handsome princes. You never know what you want till you've kissed a few frogs. So you got to go and let that handsome prince see you dancing with someone else, because that will make them want you more. And so we craft strategies for this, and we're intentional about how we work with these buyers. But don't be Cinderella. Don't fall in love with the first person that asks you to dance or the first person that gives you an LOI. let's be thoughtful about it.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I'm sure, especially with as stressful as the process is, some owners are just anxious to get it over with and
Yep.
want to take the first offer that looks halfway decent.
Yeah. And they'll give up millions,
Wow.
millions of dollars leaving on the table. And it's like, why? You've planted the seeds, you've grown your crop, and you fail to harvest just because you're going to leave half the crop in the field for the buyer to take. No, let's take it all. You deserve that, and you've worked hard. Let's maximize that and get every bit we can.
Yeah, that's really good advice. What are some things that you've seen, like some common mistakes or missteps in the process that have caused deals to fall apart? What are some of those landmines that owners can avoid?
Yeah, this is a great question. And the answer to that is yes. There's a lot of things. Yeah. So the things which I see that cause deals to fall apart is, number one, not tackling the big things up front. So in your letter of intent, when you're still, again, using the dating analogy, when you're still kind of Twitter pated with each other and you're excited you're getting engaged, that's the time to handle the sticky wickets. That's the time to handle, we call it hair on the deal. Anything that may be an issue, do not kick the can down the road. Do not cross your eyes and close, or cross your fingers and close your eyes and hold your breath and hope for the best. And I see buyers intentionally doing that and wearing sellers down. And then the sellers will give up on issues that they wouldn't have given up early on, but they're just tired.
Yeah.
They're just done. And you get deal fatigue. So number one, handle the big issues up front, negotiate those at the LOI stage, and make a good LOI that covers anything that might be an issue. Just get that out first and early on. The second thing is, this is not a divorce. This is a marriage. And so with a marriage, your negotiation is different than with a divorce. And I see sometimes we'll get well-meaning attorneys and advisors that negotiate the deals like a divorce, and it's not. It is a win-win. You're going to gain things and you're going to give up a little bit. So it is a give and a take in the negotiation. We'll make sure that you get the most important things, but you don't get everything. And so if sellers are holding out, asking for every little thing, they're going to kill the deal. And if they're beating each other up, if the buyer's beating up the seller, again, the dating and marriage analogy, if you're beating each other up the night before your wedding, you're not going to want to get married the next day. And then if you do, you're going to be like, hold revenge or hold a grudge and want to get back at them later on. It's just not a good way to start it. And these are partnerships. It's choosing the right buyer who will pay the right price. I can give you 10 buyers that'll buy your business, but are they right? Do you have an alignment of values? Do you have an alignment of vision? You spoke about vision. Does that align? Can you get along with this person? Do you like them? Are they going to take care of your employees? Are they going to take care of your customers and your good name? And so it is a two-way street. And you've got to find that alignment of values and not beat each other up too bad as you're going through the negotiation. I would say the third thing that kills your deals is having the wrong advisors.
Mm.
If you don't have a
Or
deal
no
guy
advisors.
or no advisors, yeah, mine didn't die, it died afterward, unfortunately, but when they were supposed to pay me, but that's
Oh
another story.
no.
Anyway, get deal guys, get an attorney who specializes in M&A, does M&A all the time. Get a CPA that is experienced with this, and it may not be the people you work with. I was doing a deal one time, and the guys, like, they had their attorney and it was some expert, and I came three-quarters of the way through the deal, I found out the attorney was a divorce attorney and had never done an M&A deal, and it just almost cost him $6 million. So you got to do that. And I would say another thing that can kill your deal is if you don't de-risk your business ahead of time. We have contracts and we have consents, and those have to be assigned or assumed. And if you haven't gone through and looked at those are things that can kill it. But one thing to remember is these deals are like cats. They have 9 lives. They're going to die a few times before they close. They just you'll have that, right? We joke says they have to die 3 times before they close. It is, and it is stressful. However, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It can get done. We get you through it. It's a fair amount of work to close your business, but if done properly, it can get you where you need to be and hit those goals that you were talking about, for you personally, and because that's what it's all about, taking care of your family and taking care of your needs and in your personal needs.
Yeah. Well, I think that we could have talked for 2 hours probably on this. We didn't even get to all the questions I wanted to ask you. But to wrap things up here, and we'll have to do a part two to get to the rest of this interview. Where can folks connect with you, Rick, if they're thinking about selling their business or they listen to you and they know they need to start planning now and they want to get on track? Where can folks track you down?
Yep. So you can find us on our website, the letter B for business, bsalesgroup.com, or you can email me, rick@bsalesgroup.com, or you can hop on Amazon, see my book, Sell Your Business by Design, Not by Default. Our podcast, or my podcast, is M&A, Murders and Accusations, not mergers and mergers and can't even think of the word. Mergers and acquisitions. Anyway, we joke about that, how deals die and how they don't die in the podcast. So anyway, the podcast, the book, or the website, and we're on Twitter and LinkedIn and all those too. So thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rick.